Next, we're going to be moving to Angeline, who wants to talk a little bit about how we can put the robots to work for us.
I'm Angeline Robertson, senior researcher with the SAND Research Group, and I want to talk today about how we use AI as an assistant in our research, especially in research that we've been doing over the last 5 years to try to protect the Amazon from oil and gas extraction. So I'll give you a really Coles Notes version of why this is important. Indigenous people have been warning humanity for decades that the Amazon rainforest is reaching an imminent tipping point, beyond which the Amazon can dry out, burn more frequently, which would speed the demise of our largest continuous forest on Earth. Fossil fuel extraction in the region contributes to both local forest and biodiversity loss, as well as the transboundary climate drivers of this tipping point. And the rainforest's biodiversity and its rivers support over 40 million people across the Amazon, and its climate mitigation cools down the planet. We understand that it will take policy changes at all levels, including the changes including international coordination in the finance sector, to stop the current trend of destroying the Amazon for profit. And our research enters into this space to really look at how we can connect bank financing with oil and gas extraction and the adverse impacts on the Amazon. We've been doing this work for 5 years. It has been manually done with lots of time and lots of expense. I work in advocacy research, so in civil society, there's never enough time and money. So we're always trying to do this research on the fly. In 2020, we started with looking at trade finance, and we're actually able to get 6 major EU banks to commit to stopping financing the trade in Amazon oil. And if you skip ahead 5 years, we now have 9 banks globally who have committed to exiting all of their financial transactions in the Amazon related to the oil and gas sector. A big part of this has been about being able to stay current with our research, stay on top of changing trends across nature and climate and human rights and Indigenous rights impacts from oil and gas extraction. And this has been a very lengthy and time-consuming process until we started using machine learning to help us out. We built two tools, one which reads bank policies and takes all that unstructured data in 30 and 40-page documents that is semantically different and has to be pulled together using domain knowledge. And we run it through a tool that helps to transform and structure it into long table format databases that we can quickly analyze. And we can use that information to gauge the quality of bank commitments to biodiversity, to Indigenous rights, and also gauge the difference between the commitments on paper and their actions on the ground. We also built a financial flow tool. And essentially, this does the same thing. These are both just data structuring tools. This takes oil and gas company information on production, exploration, and investment, and it helps us to understand of the pool of financing that they're receiving, what of those proceeds are they spending on their Amazon operations? And that gives us a way of tracing a connection between banks and their financing of the fossil fuel industry and adverse impacts on the ground that banks should be preventing or mitigating through their due diligence processes. Our approach has been to use large language models in an ensemble. So we're actually querying across at least 5 different models. We're doing this to future-proof our tools because we want to make sure that as new versions come out of different LLMs, we're still getting the quality of information that we want. An ensemble approach allows us to pivot. We're concerned about energy usage with LLMs, for example, and so being able to test our results in ChatGPT versus something like Anthropic's Claude tools gives us a sense of if we're pivoting around, what will be the change or what will we need to tweak in our tools in order to adapt. We're building both coded API-driven approaches and graphical user interface approaches for researchers to use on bigger and more ad hoc research needs so that researchers have a sense of they don't have to go into an entire universe of coding in order to update something that they know they need to present to a campaigner or do a bank engagement presentation on. We're also leveraging manually collected data and domain expertise. We're keeping a human really tightly in this loop. We use a training and testing model that tests the AI results against our own manually collected data. And we've been valuing more heavily the a higher recall over accuracy in the way that we're building our LLM tools, so that we're capturing a lot of information and then using our domain knowledge to help filter that, rather than leaving unknown unknowns out there in terms of the data that we should be capturing. And we're implementing chain prompting, and that's really to get around a lot of the short attention span when we come to try to use prompt engineering within LLMs to do this kind of complicated, specific research. We find that chain prompting actually allows us to utilize the power of the LLM, but not overwhelm it with such a long request that we actually get errors in the results. And we use few shot examples because we're dealing in policy research means that there's a lot to do with semantics. And we're dealing with banks who are publishing their policies in various languages. And we're using their English translations, sometimes those semantics change, and we need the tool to understand what those outliers are and make sure they're captured. And finally, what we have done, we're not in the business of trying to build a big, flashy tool. We actually really want to create AI-assisted research opportunities that are more cost and time efficient so that our researchers and all those brilliant people we work with can go further faster in our work, because keeping up with the pace of change in advocacy-based research is always such an important thing. So instead of hiring a data science firm to build these tools for us, we actually hired a coach. And that coach works with us every week to help us understand and build AI assisted research into all of our research pathways and methodologies. So instead of coming up with a culminating one tool, we're actually using all of these experiences to just try to do our work smarter and try to use all that domain knowledge that we have and all of those strategies, put it to work and let the AI do the grunt work we used to spend so much time on. Our tool components, just quickly, we use web scraping and data extraction. We have gone through the data transformation and structuring model we use, and then we also have a database and storage and a nifty notification system that allows us to be notified when the tool finds a new policy that we need to review. All of this allows us to get information into the hands, not just of campaigners, but also Indigenous federations we work with in the region, that allow them to move the needle on important negotiations and find new points of leverage in their struggle to get recognition for a change, an exit from fossil fuel financing, an exit from extractive activities in the Amazon, and a protection and recognition of Indigenous rights. And I'll leave it there. I'm sorry that was a quick download of a lot of information, but you can always reach out to Stand Earth's research group. The URL is here, and I'm always available as well.